Do you have some photos that you're excited to scrapbook but really have no idea how you want to embellish the layout? Maybe the paper pack was a no-brainer because the colors and the feel is perfect, but you seem to be at a loss on what to use for embellishments. I'm going to be documenting these 3 photos. You can see here I'm canning some peppers and also some gardening photos. I'm using the To Market paper collection from Stampin' Up. The paper's perfect. I absolutely love the color scheme and it is a garden feel, but I don't really have embellishments that I want to use for my project. So I'm going to show how I work through the process in finding embellishments in my own crafty stash. I do have a lot of scraps here too, so I'll definitely try to incorporate those, but let's clear these out of the way. This is going to be a single page layout, and I am wanting to bring in this gorgeous blackberry color. The other side of this are these really cute bags. Now there were 2 sheets, so I've been using one to fussy cut these, but I think we're going to do a frame style layout because I am wearing a shirt that complements this paper very nicely. Now I may or may not have selected that t-shirt knowing that this paper pack was going to be used to document these photos, and that's okay, right? Makes our life easier when the photos coordinate beautifully. So I want to bring in some greens because of course we've got the peppers, but I don't want the plaid with like a plaid. That's too much. So we also have, let's see, we've got this one here, which has just a very tiny little pattern. We could go with a solid green, but I think that this one is going to look nice. So to create that frame style layout, I have a piece of white cardstock. Now this is cut to 11 inches squared, and then I cut this one down to 10 3/4 inches squared, and that's going to give me just that nice little white border. I've printed my photos with the white border, so I think that that's going to look nice and just, you know, complement the border on the photos. So these are both kind of darker colors, so you can see there without the white, and then just with the addition of the white really makes that pop and adds a little brightness to the layout. Now through the magic of film editing, I have removed all of those unnecessary layers behind my main top layer here, so I have this nice piece that I can save for a different project. I've got all of my layers adhered down so we can bring the photos back in. Now I have printed my main focal photo, which is myself planting the peppers, and I am, you know, over here on the right hand side looking in. So this lends itself well to sit on the right hand side of the layout, kind of looking into the layout. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. And then just shy of 3 by 4, I have the 2 smaller photos to help tell the story. So this is something I like to do when taking photos, you know, is get little shots that tell the whole story, right? From planting to, you know, them growing in the garden to getting ready to preserve those. So that's just kind of a fun way to, you know, scrapbook your memories. And I think what I'm going to do, we could just do these straight or possibly offset them for a more playful look. We'll bring in the rest of the layers and see what we want to do with those. I am thinking about bringing, this is fresh freesia. Now that's not a coordinating color in this particular layout, but it looks like the lighter version of the Blackberry Bliss, so that's an idea. But I also have this paper, which might be kind of fun. This is like a peach pie with little polka dots on one side. But then we've got these flowers that bring in the real red and the peach pie, and you've got more of that Blackberry Bliss, and I think that that does look really nice. So I'm going to go with just a small pop of those flowers around the outside edge. Before I adhere my photo down, I love to cut shapes from the back side of my photo mats because that's hidden, right? And for this particular one, I've showed this tip before and I usually use a tag, but today I grabbed a couple of these little banners from the Nested Essentials, and now I've got these 2 pieces that I can use on a card or scrapbook layout. So I think that that would be cute just right there as a little embellishment possibly, but definitely something I love to do to stretch your paper to make it go a little bit farther, and then too you have those embellishments just ready to go. Now for embellishments, there is a coordinating stamp set called Market Goodness, and it has these adorable layering, stamps for lettuce and then carrots, tomatoes, onions, radishes. I mean, it's adorable. So there are dies also, and the dies, what do I got here? What is this? Oh, stamp. Look how cute those are. Here's some lettuce colors I was playing with, but I love layering stamps because they just look so much more dimensional and realistic. And there's some of my carrots. And then you have the coordinating dies, which also cut out the veggies on the paper. So I've been using those to embellish as well. However, for this particular layout, I could use the veggies because they go along with gardening, but I really want to focus on telling the story of canning my peppers. So this is kind of how my brain works and how I find things in my stash, because I do have a very large stamp collection. So I have a food category, food, drinks, and treats. I've got a country living category and garden category. So I went to those three stamps because we're talking about food, country living, and gardening. So that seemed like a good place to start. And I found lots of canning jars. I actually have a surprising amount of canning jars in my collection. So this one's cool because it layers. So I think I'm going to use that. It's called Mason Jar Boquet. So I thought that will be cool because we're canning. And then this garden themed stamp has a pepper on it, so that's kind of a no-brainer. Maybe we could put some of those peppers in the jars. And then some of these little sayings. So I might use a pinch of salt and a dash of sass, because salt is the primary ingredient besides vinegar in canning these, so that could work. And then when I went through my country living category, we've got homegrown, locally grown, freshly picked. So now all of a sudden I have all of these things to embellish with just by kind of thinking, okay, what's the story I want to tell? And then going to those stamp categories. So that's why I like to store things in categories, because I can kind of look through them and get ideas, because I may not know what I'm looking for, but I know the general subject. I didn't figure you needed to watch the process of me creating these, so I stamped them in black and then took the shading layer and stamped that in balmy blue to represent glass. Now I don't have blue per se in the photos, but I am wearing blue jeans, but because it's glass, I feel like it works. So I'm kind of, wanting to put some peppers down in the jar. I cut extra just in case we want to layer them like this. And looking at this layout, I need something underneath to support everything here, because they're just kind of floating randomly in the middle of the page. So ordinarily I'll put my title underneath, and my title will kind of be that horizontal interest that supports everything. But for this layout, I am considering using a pinch of salt and a dash of sass for my title, this one here, which it doesn't lend itself well to a linear design. So we need maybe some pattern paper here. I'm going to go ahead and look through my pattern paper options, and that's obviously no, because it's just too much of that pattern. That's not going to work. So we have this one here, and it's just not quite what I'm looking for. This could definitely be a contender, so I do like that one. This, still not quite what I'm like. Ooh, wood grain. Yeah. You know what? I think that's going to be it. We've got the wood in my very worn kitchen table here. So I think that that's going to be the winner right there. I don't like the green on green, and those, are obviously not going to be ideal for, these make great embellishments rather than a background. So now I've narrowed it down to 2, and I still think the wood grain is going to be the way to go, although both of those would work. Let's go with wood grain. We've got this strip of tomatoes too, but you can see that, it looks okay, but not the look I'm going for. So this is 12 inches by 2.5, and let's go ahead and just slide this up underneath here, maybe right about there. Overlap that just a bit, and then we can bring these guys back in, and I am already liking that. It's making a big difference. So we can bring our little jars. My intention is to maybe frame in the corner of this photo with these, and that's definitely taking shape. I have a couple of these like chopped circles. Now this is from the Spotlight. That one's got chopped on the edge too. These are from the Spotlight on Nature dies, and I was making a bunch of cards. So I have these little cards and I just cut them because they were off the edge of the card front here, and I had a couple left over. So I'm thinking this might be fun to stamp my title on. A pinch of salt and a dash of sass. I think that's going to fit perfectly, and I like to layer things kind of, under the photo anyway, so I thought I could use this chopped off circle and put that maybe right there. I'll go ahead and put that in my Misty just so I can make sure I get it. Let's just go for it. We don't need the Misty for this one. I'm going to stamp my title in Blackberry ink, and this title is actually a perfect example. I would not have thought of this on my own. I wouldn't have remembered this was in my collection, and I would have gone with something like pepper season or canning peppers, something very obvious. This is fun and it's different, and I'm utilizing my stash, which is a win-win. I used this stamp on my last layout, and I remember there was a couple peppers already in here. There was a bunch of veggies and stuff, but I already used the other veggies. There's a little pepper. I've got some garden trowel and gardening tools. Those could work also. So this one, you can see I cut that out with the coordinating die, and that one I must have fussy cut because sometimes I don't want the big white border. Close to my heart dies tend to have a large white border. I do appreciate that the Stampin' Up! Dies are a nice tight fit because sometimes, like I said, you just don't want that. So what I'm thinking is, because I don't want to stamp and fussy cut a gazillion of these out, I'm going to stamp a few of them directly like in the jar, and then we can layer these over the top. So we'll add just a couple more. I'm going to stamp these using Intense Black ink. This will allow me to color them in with my alcohol markers. Now this is a close to my heart item, so it's no longer available. Stampin' Up! Does carry the Memento Tuxedo Black, which is also alcohol marker friendly, so you can color those images in without them bleeding. For this layout, I really didn't know what I wanted to use for embellishment, so I began with the subject of the layout and then went to my stamp categories within that subject topic and thumbed through them for inspiration. I also categorize all my stamps in an app called Evernote. I do have a full tutorial on that, and I will leave that listed in the description box below. But let's say I did know I wanted to use canning jars or mason jars. This is my Spectrum Noir Dull Green Blend marker, and those other peppers were colored with this same marker. So for consistency, I just grabbed this one, and we'll go ahead and color these in. Back to Evernote. I know I want to use canning jars or mason jars, so now I can go to my Evernote app and type in under search mason jars, or whatever I would have categorized them under, canning jars. Every stamp set I have that I've uploaded and tagged with a canning jar will come up, because while these were in the food section, I do also have some in my Christmas collection, because there was some stamps where it was like a country themed stamp where they put Christmas floral arrangements in the mason jar. Super cute. So by looking at them in my app, it shows me every canning jar related stamp next to each other, so I can scroll through, pick out the one I like that's going to work for my project, and then go find it in my craft room. I have all of my little peppers colored in and arranged in the jar, and they do look pretty darn cute, better than I even anticipated. So I did fussy cut a few of these floral bouquets. This mason jar has a slit in the top because it was designed to hold flowers, and I thought I should just go ahead and use these because they coordinate beautifully with the layout, and that adds some height, kind of framing in that photo. There's also this cute little tag here. We could put it there. Maybe I'll stamp a heart on it or something, but we'll leave that there for now. I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut one of these little tote bags. I thought I could put the garden trowel or the gardening tools in this tote bag. I need something else up by the title. So I think this is going to help bring that brown from the wood tones up towards the top there. And then we can tuck these little guys into the bag. The wood grain paper inspired me to look through my wooden embellishments. I have a whole bunch of wooden shapes from close to my heart in my stash. Now these are hearts, which I feel kind of have like that country homespun feel. Plus I like the natural wooden element. So I thought a couple of these for a small scatter element would be nice. Now I have, let's try one here actually on our little mason jar tag. Now that was a little too big. Let's try this one. It's just kind of lost there. I'm thinking we need more red. I brought red in with the floral bouquet on the right. Now, this is my all-purpose mat. You can tell I've been playing with my gold marker, getting some Christmas cards ready. So this is the real red stamp pad from Stampin' Up. Now these are kind of rough, so you do not want to rub them. I'm literally just pressing down, letting that soak up the color. If you had re-inkers, you could, drip the re-inker on there or even paint them. But again, I'm just straight down, straight up so it doesn't damage your ink pad. I need a little bit more. I'm basically just staining these hearts red. I've got inky fingers, so I got to be careful there. And then these do take a little bit to dry, so I'm going to leave them on my mat and we will move on. I decided I needed one more pepper up in this upper right-hand corner of the jar, just looking a little empty, like somebody got in there and ate some peppers. So we'll fill that back up and just trying to get it so it's sitting natural in there. And then I'm going to color with the Blackberry Bliss markers from Stampin' Up. These are Stampin' Blends. When you buy one marker color, so this is Blackberry Bliss, it's a combo pack. You get both markers. So you get the light and you get the dark, and each marker has a brush tip on one side and a bullet tip on the other. So these are fun to use. The tri-blends, which I colored my peppers in, those have 3 colors and only a bullet tip. I'm using the darker color around the outside edge, and then we're lightening it up as we go in towards the center. And I'm going to go in with my bullet tip and hit just some of these tinier areas. I just wanted a little pop of color. We have a lot of white space on the jar with the flowers, so I think this will do the trick. You'll notice I have this awkward spot below my photo next to the peppers, right in this section here. I die cut these shapes from the back of my photo mat, and they've just been waiting for me to use them, right? So let's tuck this under, and maybe we can layer the two together. We'll scoot that over, and maybe, you know what? I don't like that next to, it's the same as the photo mat. Let's go ahead and bring our hearts back in. I think these are dry now. I do like the red. That really kind of just carries your eye around the page. Now this I stamped and hand wrote to my journaling. That is from the Love Story Scrapbooking stamp, which is retired. And I basically just wrote the recipe for my peppers and then the date the photos were taken. So I'm trying to decide if I want to overlap it or line it up on that tag. And I also stamped this one here. It says freshly picked, using some of those country themed stamps that I pulled for potential embellishments. And I'm deciding I want that lined up, so we'll go with that. And then there is some bling that goes along with this to market collection. And I'm going to add just a couple to this little banner up here. I do want to mention when I filmed my Evernote tutorial that I used to catalog my stamp inventory, they had a free version where you can have so many uploads every month and not have to pay for it. They have since changed that, and you do have to pay for this service. And for many of you, it just doesn't make sense. Now, there are other note apps that are free, so you might want to still watch the tutorial and just kind of see how I do that. But again, you could even use Apple Notes on your phone to categorize your stamps. If you found this helpful, definitely watch this video on the right. I had no idea how to embellish this one and drew inspiration from the colors and shapes within the photos themselves. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you real soon on YouTube.